So how many of you have already studied polity before this? Because we are there in the main examination segment. So it is expected that you should know about the factual dimensions of polity. So how many of you have studied polity? One. सब में आप ही हाथ उठाइएगा. No, it is all. It was just to make the things light. You have studied that. हाँ. तो धीरे छोटा हाथ क्यों उठा रहे? It should be higher. And rest of? So you understand polity? You understand polity? Very good. So to start with, the very basic thing regarding polity is, do you differentiate between the two popular terms synonymously used? हाँ बोलो. We are reading Indian polity, and to understand the meaning of polity, I find that there are two words synonymously used. The another one is political science. Could you differentiate between the two? How many students are there from political science in this batch? Is there any student who has got his subject as political science? अच्छा छुपाते भी हैं लोग, बोल भी नहीं करेंगे. None of you. Oh. अच्छा, you would have studied political science during your school days. Civics. So could you make some difference between the two words?
So politics and practice is counted as politics.
No. When we study political science, as a matter of fact, herein we study about the theories related to origin of state. Achha, the one important thing I would suggest to you, anything those I'm writing on the board, you are expected to note down. That note down of the board will give you a synopsis of the class proceedings in your room, and that will help you to go through, because you have to revise. We'll be discussing a lot of things here. Many of the things I'll be dictating you, many of the things I'll be writing on the board. You are expected to take notes of those, because when you'll go through the notes in your room, it will help you to exactly understand what are the proceedings and what are the things those have happened. Right? And thereafter, when you'll go through the books, that will help you further to suggest things. That is the mechanism. You are open for questions. I'll try to give the things in such a way that you could be able to understand, accommodate in very crispy manner. I'll try that. And wherever you find, I want some deliberations, extra analysis, sort of things, you're supposed to raise alarm. Right? Let me know what are the things you are not being able to understand me, or I'm not ever being able to reach you. That gap should be reciprocated. Baki dekhte? So in course of reading political science, we study about the theories related to origin of state. Wherever you disagree, you are supposed to disagree me. Then only I'll have the opportunity to prove that why did I say anything. Right? So basically political science is this. Like in course of this we study, say about social contract theory. Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau are the scholars who have proposed it. We find there is, say, democracy, there is socialism, there is communist or communism. Likewise, these are theories. There could be dictatorship also. There could be monarchy also. All these are different theories based upon which the state is established. suggest me why the state is required? Why this state is required? It is nothing else than the good of people. The state is there only for the reason to make good for the people, to ensure that the development of people could be there. Think the things in past. When we were in nomadics, so some group of people were there. One leader, Sardar, used to be there. That Sardar was responsible to for the safety, for welfare. तो बहुत बात की बात हुई. For the reason of food, protection. That is identity of state. When nomadics were there, it was nowhere geographical reason. Wherever they used to go, they used to stand. Objective of leader Sardar was to ensure that safety of the group could be there. Now when the size of group increases, so from 20 to 200 to 2 lakhs to 20 lakhs, then it is not possible for one leader to accommodate and take care of everything. Then he departmentalizes it. So group of 5 people taking care of safety. Group of 5 people taking care of food. Group of 5 people taking care of health. Group of 5 people taking care of old people. Likewise, that is division of work. And then those 5, those 20 people, those 30 people evolved as an organization gradually. Now if the people who are living with me are so decent that once I say and they accept, I used to happen to be democratic. If you do not accept, I'll become autocratic. It's very simple. Objective is to handle, objective is to accommodate the group of people for the good of whole. Howsoever it is possible. If you do not remember the things just by saying, I'll become a strict leader in 2nd, 3rd, 4th class. If you accept me and you reciprocate me, respond me so decently, I'll always happen to be a democratic leader. My objective is to make you read. Objective of the leader is to ensure development, howsoever is possible. That is a state. And gradually, when people are there militant, then there is military. When people are there educated, it is democracy. When equality is more important, then it is socialism. Likewise. But even though it is a dictator, his objective ultimately is to strengthen his state in such a way that his state could appear to be the most strongest one. And that is possible only by the means of development. So whatsoever is the nature, philosophy of state, anything, ultimate objective of state is good of people. Do you agree to this or not? Yes, these are the most basic thing, based upon which only we study constitution. Right? So whatsoever all these theories XYZ are there, all of them are having objective of good of people. You could say welfare of people, you could say development of people. Ek hi baat hai. Now that way, when it is good of people, you are having your routine for your preparation. How many of you are having exact routine for your preparation of civil service or BPSC? 1, 2. Are baki log? It is minority. Don't you have proper routine for your study? All of you must have. All of you must have. Nahi hai to bana lo aaj. Another difficult question to answer is, how many of you have exactly implemented the routine you have made for yourself? How many times? Every day. The another question is, if you sit with the book for 2 hours, say, do you feel, are you happy with the output of 2 hours labor? No, I'm not saying if you remember. Do you find yourself to be satisfied? So you are the exception. You are exception. In general, what I have experienced in my life, and most of you will agree, We are not capable of exactly implementing the routine for longer days. 2 दिन तो हो जाता है भाई. Third day some phone call comes, some friend comes. Sometimes I am feeling lazy. आज थोड़ा सो जाते तो ठीक था. Is it not? That is truth. That is truth. Exceptions are not rules.
That's why I don't have social media now.
I said you, and I accepted that. But exceptions are not rules. Herein we are trying to read things in a general condition, and in general we find that the routine we make for ourselves, we are not capable of exactly implementing. You could think of it. The policies of the government for such a large number of people, for variety of people, for variety of requirement. कोई SC है, कोई ST है, कुछ है. सबकी अपनी अपनी जरूरत है. For the variety of requirement, it is the state to perform the task. Do you think it will be possible exactly? It's very difficult. So to make sure that good of people could be there, to make sure that the needs of the people must be fulfilled, there is requirement of functionality, mechanism to operationalize.
We can say that in micro level it is possible, but it is in macro level it is not at all possible.
It is at macro level, from my way of thinking, at macro level, perhaps it is possible. At micro level, it is impossible. Likewise, if we say if we say macro level, so it will be poverty, population, education, health, etc. At macro level, perhaps to a certain extent it is possible. When we go for, say, poverty, then X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and completing things at all the levels, it is very difficult. So at micro level, it is almost impossible for a country like India. Because if it say it is education. It is not only education, it is primary, high school, secondary, then advanced school, then technical, then medical, then general. Achha, that is not only that. And all these are there for SC, for ST, for women, for OBC, for general, even among general some ABC, EWC. कैसे करेंगे भाई? It's very difficult. If you plan it, you will find it is very tedious and difficult. What I wanted to convey you, to make sure all these things happen, there is requirement to have some mechanisms. Anything that we do in our lives, we have to identify some mechanisms with the help of which, some structure with the help of which we could perform the task. And all those are there in the form of rules and regulations. Some laws are there, some agreements are there. Then only it is possible to perform the task. When two people work together, it is essential that both of them will not be similar. And henceforth some uniform condition requires to be identified. That uniform condition happens to be law. Sometimes it is passed by parliament, sometimes it is agreed by me and you. So, mechanism is required, system is required, with the help of which the objectives of good of people could be implemented. Otherwise not. And then, all these mechanisms with the help of which the good of people will be there, that is polity, because basically polity is state at work. Whenever we ask for polity study, we start reading Constitution. Why? Because only by the means of mechanisms it is possible to find good of people, and that is Constitution, because combination of rules and regulations, laws, directives, with the help of which the state is operationalized, state is made functional. That is Constitution. That is the standard definition of Constitution. Do you agree to that?
Yes, sir.
And we study Constitution in polity, so it is state at work. So practically, We do not study political science. We do not study political science. When we study GS, we study application of political science. Now, it is difficult to segregate both of the two. It is not possible. Because when something is made operational, then the impact of basics will be there always in operation. Taking this responsibility to study polity, we will study state at work and the mechanisms related. But to understand the things in polity, that is constitution, as required, we'll travel through political science. Because if we want to study preamble and we have to study, say, socialism, welfare state, secularism, we need to understand that philosophically also. And that is possible to be studied in political science only. So in course of understanding polity, dimensions of polity, we'll travel through political science. We'll not stay there. We'll travel through, we'll understand things, we'll come back to polity to analyze the things in the perspective of philosophy also. And thereby, what I segregate is, he will not study political science, we'll only refer those. And then we are there to study polity only. Is that clear? Now, in course of studying polity, we find the reference is there of constitution. The reference is there of constitution. What is constitution? Now, we took a general notion for constitution. लिख लीजिए. बात तो समझ में आ गई? We'll discuss a lot of things. I'll try to give you the gist of that. And you're supposed to note that, because that will help you in your room. You'll like listening me. That will be good. But only listening would not suffice purpose. As a student, when I think, so listening is very, very beautiful, lovely. But when I go back to my house and open my book and do not find anything, it becomes a big pressure. क्या क्या पढ़े थे? कुछ याद नहीं है. It happens. One day तो चलेगा. Not every day. Because ultimate objective of this assembly is to understand polity. As a teacher, what I want, if you happen to be my student once, so at least you should not require another teacher for polity. अब बाकी मेहनत करते, right, sir? So please note. Constitution is a collection of. Constitution is a collection of. थोड़ा मार्जिन छोड़िए. लिखते समय मार्जिन छोड़िए, है ना? थोड़ा मार्जिन छोड़ो बच्चा. वो that will help you later on. Constitution is a collection of certain rules and regulations. Constitution is collection of certain rules and regulations. Those are to guide the functions of state. Guide the functions of state in the perspective of good of people. We could say that after full stop, we could say that Constitution is the state's behavior. state's behavior and laws which are there to decide the functions of different organs. Decide the functions of different organs of government, comma, its nature, comma, relationships between the governor and governed, between the governor and governed, comma, rights and duties of people, etc. That is constitution. Right? Since childhood days, we have been listening this one. Governed का मतलब people, governor मतलब शासक, मतलब state. Since our childhood days, we have been listening this one, knowing this one. The Constitution of India is a framed constitution, written constitution, and the longest one. एकदम बच्चे से we have been listening, and I remember those days when we were not in the position to understand what is the meaning of framed and written and all, but we were knowing कि Constitution of India is a written constitution, it's a framed constitution. The another important thing that we have been knowing since childhood days, कि India was colony of Britain. Now there is contradiction I find. If you say India was colony of Britain, the objective of colonial state is nothing else than exploitation. If you say Constitution of India is a written and framed constitution, how did the conditions evolve that a colonial state gave permission to frame a constitution? What happened? Something has happened very significant.
Fighting again and again, and in 19 because of defeat of Britain in World War II.
As a matter of fact, lot of things happened in history in course of freedom struggle, and since the days of Bengal ke Nawab, and then Battle of Palasi and Buxar, and all the constitutional development or all the acts, those have been passed. Those gradually generated some structure of government and all the mechanisms, because you remember, before British mechanisms, India was being run by the means of kings, emperors. There is no codification of law. Will of the king used to happen to be law, right or wrong, and that was nowhere codified. So when British came, it had legacy of constitutionalism in Britain, accordingly all those. So those got identified and gradually evolved. How did it happen? Some reason would have been there, na? So we need to study some constitutional development. Those occurred. So since days of 1600, Elizabeth had given the permission to East India Company to go to India, Far East countries, especially India, Indian subcontinent, and make some trading activities and commercial activities and all. And Jahangir was the person to receive, and all those things happened in history. And gradually the time came that of Battle of Buxar and Palasi. Ulta bol diya. Palasi and Buxar. And thereafter 1773, that regulating act was there. Started evolving the mechanism of structure of government. It was 1773 Act when first time there was consolidation of executive functions. Because Bengal, Governor of Bengal had been given the status of Governor General of Bengal. That is consolidation of executive functions. And today we find that there is precedent. The governors are there. Is it not the similar mechanism? Not only reading history, knowing the facts, you have to integrate the things from the present situation. Then you happen to be a good student. Knowing things is important. Interpreting those things, integrating the things, happen to be larger things. Right, sir? All those things we need to know. What happened, how did those things evolve? Right? So we are supposed to read constitutional development. We should read. As if the constitution has been prepared, there must have happened something in history that opportunity would have appeared. I remember the most significant accidents, chori chora like conditions, wherein notion of British that one could identify was just exploitative, harassing, suppressing. Since days of 1857 and onward, har jagah jahan dekhi humne. In such condition, what happened? Something must have happened. That ultimately British agreed कि भाई चलो तुम लो अपना संविधान. You might remember, इतिहास पढ़े है ना? You might remember the conditions of Nehru Report, 1928. Just before that, and Motilal Nehru was there in 24 to demand for the Constitution of India and Constituent Assemblies, wherein British got irritated because this demand for Constituent Assembly and Constitution had become talk of the day. Wherever something is happening, Inqilab Zindabad, Samvidhan Sabha chahiye. That was issue, and when the British got irritated, they floated a challenge. You are crying hard, shouting hard for Constitution. Do you have that much of guts? Could you do that? And that was the challenge accepted by Nehruji, and Nehru Committee was organized, and Nehru Report was there. That happens to be the first constitution for Indians. Although that was not accepted. These things happened in history, na sir. Gradually things came up. Indian National Congress was not there anything asking for, demanding for Constitution of India and Constituent Assembly and all. Ultimately in 36, Lucknow session, it said, passed the resolution, said ki bhai, we want organization of Constituent Assembly and Constitution of India. That will make Constitution of India. It repeated all those in 37, in 38. Things are happening. Freedom struggle leaders are getting conscious about the requirement of Constitution. And the basic reason was, Gandhiji was there on the screen of freedom struggle. He had initiated a lot of mass movement and was trying to make people understand what is about Swaraj, self-rule. I'm sorry to say, even today I find many of the incidents, evidences, that still we are not understanding the basic meaning, basic philosophy of Swaraj. If we take bribe, where is Swaraj? Sorry. If the civil servants like IAS, DM, Mukhya ji, vagara vagara, are there receiving bribe, so where is Swaraj? How do you say that? Is it not? Think for a condition. Manrega is there. In Manrega, such people are being given opportunity to work who are living below poverty line, who are not capable of arranging 2 meals a day. And then they are being given the opportunity for 1 dihari a day, so that they could be able to arrange food for their family, everyday working and everyday managing. And lot of other things, PDS system and all those are there. And even in Manrega, wages, the DM, the SDO, the BDO, जो हमारा बिल्कुल परिचित संबंधी है मुखिया, सरपंच, they are taking bribes, sir. Where is Swaraj? Where is self-rule? Those who enter into government, they happen to be Angrez. They are not doing nothing else than exploiting. Similar thing was being done by the British also. Now that is required to be understood. It is a matter of sensitivity. We need to understand. Only reading, only studying will not suffice the purpose. Now for all these reasons, things happened. And even today. So during British days also, people were not being able to understand anything regarding Swaraj. And Gandhiji was trying to propagate it, evolve it, make people understand. And gradually it happened. In course of that, it was one of the talk. In Swaraj we'll have our own constitution, bacha. Indian leaders will make it. People started getting attracted towards it. And then '37 was there, 1937, when provincial election was there. In '39 there was Second World War. And without consulting the popular leader of India, it was announced to participate in the World War. That was resented by the Indian leaders. And then standstill was there. And mass resignation was there, a lot of things. Then August offer was there, 40. बोले भाई दोस्ती कर लेते हैं. Leaders did not agree. 42 was there. Cripps mission. That also failed. Bharat Chodo Andolan was there. Leaders got arrested. Even Gandhiji was house arrested. All these things happen. And thereafter, after this standstill, there was total silence for the reason of any development of freedom struggle. And so the demand for constitution was also. In all these perspectives, what we find, at the end of Second World War, one of the important things that happened in Britain, Churchill was the Prime Minister of Britain during Second World War. And immediately after the end of Second World War, there was, election in Britain. And Clement Attlee was the another candidate. And he had promised if Labour Party wins the election, India will be freed by 30th June 48. All these things were there. And ultimately, sir,
बोल दीजिए सर कि इंग्लिश मीडियम की क्लास हिंदी में नहीं चलेगी, मतलब कि इंग्लिश मीडियम के बच्चे मुझे कॉल कर रहे हैं कि सर को बोली हिंदी में भी बोल रहे हैं, है ना, ये गलत होगा, फिर हम इस तरह नहीं कर सकते, फिर बाइलिंगुअल हम चला देंगे ना.
no, look.
ये प्योर इंग्लिश मीडियम का तो
नहीं, हमको हिंदी भी खूब अच्छा से आता है, ऐसा बात नहीं है. ऐसा नहीं, और हिंदी खाली आता नहीं है, बिहार वाला हिंदी भी आता है ना. बिहार में खाली भोजपुरी है थोड़े भाई. हाँ सर. So Hindi, Angrezi, look, this is my way of thinking, and you will agree to that. It is not a matter of language. It is a matter of understanding. If you have got the knack of the subject, फ्रेंच में बोल देंगे, भोजपुरी बोल देंगे, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? If you are having a very good language of English or French or German or Spanish, कुछ भी बोल लो. If you do not know the subject, तो क्या बोलेंगे? अंग्रेजी. कैसे? Am I clear? So it is not a matter of language, but for the main examination requirement, there is requirement to have a good language. And that evolves only by means of speaking, sharing, involving, and the way. So again, I would say I put this apart from the assignment given to me that the class is of English and you have to be in English, but for the comfortability of the students. Whenever you find, sir, it became little beyond understanding and something sort of. कोई बात नहीं अगर हिंदी में बोलेंगे. But majority of the class will be in English. Dictation shall always be in English. है ना, हिंदी में फिर शब्द आने लगेंगे ना तो आप घबराएंगे फिर. शक्ति का पृथक्करण जब आएगा तो फिर आप. So let us be unilingual, right? कभी जरूरत पड़ेगी आपको लगेगा या उधर से कोई मांग आएगी कि सर हिंदी में, तो थोड़ी देर आपकी अनुमति से हम लोग हिंदी में भी बात करेंगे. Look, it's a teamwork. It's a teamwork. That is also your learning. You have to work as leader. Leader is there only when followers are there. They have to work accordingly, but ये तो उनका काम नहीं भाई, हम तो अपना बात बोल रहे हैं. So the leader is there and is not accommodating, reciprocating with the group. The effectiveness will not be there. अब फिर मैं पब्लिक एड में नहीं जाऊंगा. There are a lot of such theories wherein participative leadership theories are there. I won't go into that. Coming back to this. अच्छा हम लोग बात कर रहे थे for the historical development. As I'll not go into the details of those, so I'm just giving you a knack of that. Right? So therein what we find कि in 45 when Clement Attlee had promised it and there was say election conducted. Fortunately, Clement Attlee won the election. And as per his promise, he immediately sent cabinet mission plan to India in 1946. Stafford Cripps was also a member of cabinet mission plan, even though he was member of Churchill government. But for the reason of the knowledge, understanding of Indian issues, for Stafford Cripps, he had been included in cabinet mission. And ultimately the cabinet mission plan arranged the things. Election was conducted for the reason of on the basis of proportional representation from the provincial legislature and all. And Constituent Assembly was organized. Finally, first meeting held on 9th December 1946. And then S.N. Sinha was there, then Rajendra Prasad was there, B.N. Rao got appointed as constitutional advisor and all those. And finally, it came to draft committee. So before that, it was B.N. Rao who had prepared the first draft constitution. That was handed over to draft committee in 1948. And then first reading, second reading, third reading. And finally, on 26 November 1949, partial implementation, commencement of the constitution happened with 15 articles on 26 November 1949. And that day, Preamble also got adopted. That is one of the most important things when we'll be discussing Preamble. One of the question arises whether Preamble happens to be part of Constitution or not. So initially it was not, gradually it happened. What is the basis of interpretation? Initially it was not and presently it is. So what basis is there that Supreme Court interpreted Preamble to be part of Constitution? Therein this information will work a lot. Okay, if the Constitution is adopted by the Constituent Assembly, similarly Preamble is adopted by the Constituent Assembly, how could it be said that it is not the part of Constitution? It can be amended by the means of 368, which is the provision of the Constitution. Then how could you say, or how could it be said that it is not part of Constitution? So that way we find that Constitution got finally prepared, partially implemented with 15 articles, and then finally implemented on 26 January 1950. And Constituent Assembly's last meeting held on 2 days before, 24th January 1950. And ultimately, the status of Constituent Assembly got converted into the status of provisional parliament for independent India. And that way. So that is, all these are the historical conditions. So therein, one another thing that we need to study is demand and framing of the Constitution. Demand and framing of constitution. Now, a lot of things are there in the constitution, which are there, but they have not been written in the constitution. In course of reading, you will come to understand. I'll be referring you, and you will be knowing that. A lot of things are there in the constitution. Those are part of constitution. They are implicitly inbuilt, implicitly adopted, not explicitly. So until unless we understand those implicit part of constitution, those have not been written, but they are part of philosophy, part of constitution, it will be difficult for us to exactly understand and interpret the provisions of the constitution. So thereafter, I feel that we should read about those hidden dimensions of the constitution before going into the details of the constitution. So, hidden डायमेंशंस, छिपे हुए भाग जो हैं लेकिन दिखते नहीं। अच्छा, सबसे मुश्किल तभी होती है when we do not know what are those things we have to do. If they are there enlisted, it becomes easier for us to identify. But if they are not enlisted and we are not knowing what we are responsible for, then that is the difficult part of anyone's responsibility. I'm just trying to decipher those for you. Like sources to constitution. What are the sources? Now this is sources to constitution is objective, but it is subjective as well. I'll be posing a lot of questions on that. It is not just going for ratification of the landed feature of by USA, by United Kingdom and Ireland and Germany, and no. Out of all those, then I'll pose some questions and I'll expect you to answer those. So sources to constitution. Another important thing, that is basic structure of constitution. Nowhere written it in the constitution, but happens to be one of the guiding philosophy. So that is basic structure of constitution. India happens to be a federal state, but not exactly. Dilutions are there. Different conditions are there, different features are there based upon which it is difficult to call it a pure federation. If we do not call it pure federation, then what is it? Quasi-federal. I'll ask question on that. When we'll be there in that part, I'll ask question and I'll prove totally different from you. So, federation. आपकी बात भी लिख देते हैं, क्वासी फेडरेशन. कोऑपरेटिव फेडरेशन. कन्फेडरेशन. Unitary features. All these are there in the Constitution. For the reason of its provisions, its interpretations, all those are there, but they are nowhere written in the provisions of the Constitution. We need to understand those. Parliamentary form. Parliamentary form. All these are parts. Those are there to be studied. Thereafter, you might have heard about the term Samvidhanwad, constitutionalism. Again, it is not written in the constitution. And in BPSC we have question from that, difference between constitution and constitutionalism. Direct question is there in BPSC main. So the another one, constitutionalism and constitutional morality. Let me know one thing. You have got routine for your studies. Is it for you to is it for you, or you wanted to show it to your father only? It is for you. But that depends only upon your morality, na? You've got all those चस्पा करके रखा पूरा कमरे में, जो कोई आया प्रभावित होके गया, जैसे गया छिटकिनी लगाई. We have got the constitution and the provisions having all the objectives for the development of people. Everything could be made effective. But until unless the morality to implement there is there, output is not there. That we wrote here good of people is difficult to attain. That is one of the important part. Without it, think over it. If we want to have a good society, we need to adopt all the fundamental duties assigned. How many of you exactly remember about the duties? And think over it, if such an intellectual group of people who are preparing for civil service do not remember the list of only 11 fundamental duties, how could I expect it from all those people on the streets who are daily wage earner? Mushkil hai saab. Think over it. So until unless that commitment is there, you want to become an IAS, very good. But those are there only on the tongue. It's not there in your heart. It's difficult. At least for 4-5 years तो आप IAS बने ही रह गए. उसके बाद देखते हैं. No, that is difference. You have to give your commitment. That is not possible until unless you are good at heart, until unless you possess the sense of nationalism, until unless you take the responsibility to develop your country. Otherwise not. Reading, going by the provisions is a different thing. Implementing them to attain the objective is totally different. And unless you have got that commitment to implement those to attain objectives. कभी छोटे बच्चे को टॉफी छीने जाने पर लौटाते हुए देखा है? That is commitment. ऐसा लटक जाता है, टॉफी नहीं छोड़ता. It's very important to observe that activity. That commitment is required. Think for a country like India, wherein millions and millions of people are there, billion people are there, more than that. And group of people, 1% आदमी are there working for the government. And if even that percent is not committed, क्या होगा भाई? Think over it. It's a big question. Even if that 8% is working very good, very hard, if 99% of people are not giving their best, trying to accommodate the development in them, showing their commitment to grab the opportunity, will it be possible to bring development? That is constitutional morality, without which the development is not there. Will not be possible. We can write it, will not be able to attain. and group of people only could come up to attain those. There is requirement to understand this. While you are writing answers in the main examination, it should reflect. When you are answering the questions in the main interview, it should reflect that you are not just an administrator, you are a committed administrator. You are administrator at core of your heart, that you want to bring development for you. जब बच्चे की तबीयत खराब हो जाती है तो नींद आने पर भी बाप नहीं सोता. दवा जब दौड़ के लाना होता है, दर्द होने के बावजूद दौड़ना नहीं छोड़ता. फिजिकल की तैयारी के क्रम में, दौड़ के क्रम में लास्ट 10 स्टेप्स जो आप डालते हैं, यू आर टोटली एग्जॉस्टेड, but you are not leaving. That is commitment. That should come up even for the reason of your preparations. Otherwise तो बहुत लोग खूबसूरत हैं, सिर्फ हम और आप नहीं, बाकी लोग नाराज नहीं हो जाए. We'll read about that, constitutional morality. अच्छा, if we have to implement constitution, wherever we have to implement, do we not require to know about the place, the scope wherein the constitution has to be implemented? If you want to reach Delhi, you just come up Delhi, or you try to find out some information regarding Delhi. कहाँ जाएंगे, कहाँ रहेंगे, कैसा चलता है, कितना ठंडा है, गर्मी है कि नहीं, etc., etc. Don't you do that? That is nature. That is a scope. So if the constitution has to be implemented in India, we are expected to know about the nature of Indian political system, wherein everything will be performed and the means will be constitution. So constitution will be tool, not end. End is good of people, which is there in the political system. So we need to understand about the nature of Indian political system as well. थोड़ी बहुत बात हम लोग उसकी भी करेंगे. Nature of Indian political system. आदित्य शर्मा सर, थोड़ा बायलिंगुअल भी. जी जी, पता चल गया हिंदी भी बोलते हैं सर, डिमांड आ गया तुरंत. And to review about whole constitution, we'll study salient features of Indian constitution. Features of constitution. Now, thereafter we'll start reading the text of the constitution. And the very first thing that appears is preamble. The another thing is, anything that we do in our lives, anything. अच्छा, हम तो ये भी कहते हैं कि even if we do not do, even not doing something has got some objective. So doing something has got essentially some objective. If all those things happened in history and freedom struggle leaders were there, Constituent Assembly was there, and ultimately Constitution got prepared, framed, it must have some objective. So although many objectives are there, to attain the objectives there are certain way of doing things. Certain philosophy is there. One could be there कि इतना मारो कि चुप हो जाए. Other could be there कि इतना चुप रहो कि कुछ बोले ही नहीं. Objective तो एक ही है. Are you getting my point? There could be different philosophy. There could be democratic philosophy. There could be secular philosophy. There could be, socialist philosophy, communist philosophy, monarchical philosophy. Anything. A lot of things are there. Those are theories of state. Now, what India has adopted in course of attainment of objective, what philosophy shall it be guided? To know about all those, what are the objectives and on what philosophy does it work, we have got preamble. So, the next thing that we'll read is philosophy and objective. That is basically preamble. Now, thereafter, if the state is there, people are there. For the reason of development, they require some conditions without which it is not possible for them to develop themselves. And those we know as fundamental rights. So the major thing comes as fundamental rights. While reading philosophy, will come to know that India is a welfare state. The basic thing in the welfare state is that state happens to be participant in the development of people. People are themselves there working for their development. State is also there as one of the active participant. That is concept of socialism that has been adopted in Indian system. Although we are not traditional socialist country, we are liberal socialist country. We are democratic socialist country. So wherein that liberty has entered into, that we'll discuss. But we'll find that state happens to be participant in the development of people. जनता के विकास में राज्य भी भागीदार है. क्या क्या काम करता है? In course of discussion, I'll give n number of examples for that. So the another important thing that will appear is DPSP, the active principles of state policy. That much will be there, and of course fundamental rights and duties will be there. Now in course of all those, if all these objectives are there, responsibilities are there, so how will those be performed? For the performance, some structures, some mechanisms are required, and that we know as union and state government. Organs of union and state government. Organs of union and state government. What do you mean by the word government? सरकार का मतलब क्या?
is elected government.
Let me know first government, then elected जोड़ेंगे. What do you mean by government? Rule the people. Oh, rule बोल के गड़बड़ कर दिया आपने. जी, anybody else? How many of you are postgraduate? How many of you are postgraduate? एक, दो, तीन. झूठ नहीं बोलना, बाद में पता लग जाएगा. पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के स्टूडेंट हो क्या? पहले थे. तब तो और ज्यादा बढ़िया जवाब देना चाहिए. तब तो आप पे घास ज्यादा गिरेगी. अच्छा, डरने की बात नहीं. ऐसा नहीं कि घास गिरेगी गायब. A group of people in the hands of state, group of people in the hands of state to perform the objectives of state. That is government. And to perform all those functions, we are having executive, legislature and judiciary. गलती बोला सही बोला भाई? सही बोला. You won't find all these definitions in book. It is basically matter of your conception. Next time whenever I'll be explaining, there might be change of word. Conception will be the same one. And the group of people are based upon merit. They are not elected. They are not elected. They are, जिसकी तैयारी आप कर रहे हैं. They are selected. Selected on the basis of merit. Why merit? So that whatsoever the issues, whatsoever the objectives will be given, those must be effectively implemented. For that, the best merit is required. So in course of identifying those government and mechanisms, we find that there are executive, legislature and judiciary. There are executive, legislature and judiciary. So let me know, what do you mean by executive, legislature, judiciary? फटाफट. अच्छा, the one thing I would say कि वहां से तो बहुत लोग बहुत कुछ, हाँ, ग्रुप हु गवर्न पीपल, देखिए उधर से ऋषभ झा जी सही जवाब दे रहे हैं, बढ़िया, ऐसे ही जवाब देते रहिए तो मेरा ध्यान बोर्ड ये स्क्रीन पर भी जाएगा, तो फिर विल इंटरैक्ट. जुडिशरी मेक्स जजमेंट. मेघा जी, चलिए आप लोग बताइए, एक्सक्यूटिव, लेजिस्लेचर, जुडिशरी. करता क्या है? हाँ ठीक है, मिनिस्टर्स आर, हाँ हाँ, यस, एग्जीक्यूटिव इज देयर टू इंप्लीमेंट, नाम से ही पता लगता है. इट इज देयर टू एग्जीक्यूट, लेजिस्लेचर इज देयर टू इनैक्ट, रूल मेकिंग. व्हाट इज जुडिशरी? जस्टिस का फिर तो बड़ा मतलब निकाल देंगे आप, कहां जॉन राउल्स में लेके चले जाएंगे, को प्लेटो में लेके चले जाएंगे. आपने पॉलिटी पढ़ा है, मुझे याद है, एक ये और एक वो, नहीं किसने बताया था? इसने बताया था. हाँ. दो आदमी पॉलिटी पढ़ा है, तो मैं पहले उनसे पूछूंगा फिर बाकी से. ये तो फिर उस पर फिर अब एक पन्ना लिखने के लिए बोलेंगे आपको. यू आर राइट, बट व्हाट इज that is the responsibility of executive. If executive does not do, then judiciary comes. फॉलो करवाना. चलिए बात ज्यादा करते हुए, बेसिकली जुडिशरी दो काम है इसके इंपॉर्टेंट. वन इज टू लुक इनटू द constitutionality and legality of the functions of executive and legislature. Whenever executive does anything wrong, beyond constitution, beyond assigned conditions, it is the judiciary to control it. Cannot do this. Kharij kiya. Even the legislature, if legislature legislates something beyond its periphery, beyond its jurisdiction, then judiciary is there to adopt judicial review and is there to repeal. By doing all these control mechanisms, what is judiciary doing? It is trying to look into. It is there ensuring. It is there examining. क्या? Constitutionality and legality of the functions of executive and legislative. लिख तो लो, दोबारा पूछूंगा बता नहीं पाओगे. Wherever the things are there ना, like हाँ जैसे इन्होंने लिखा है, बगल में एक ऐसा बॉक्स बना दो, जुडिशरी लिख लो. लिख लो. जुडिशरी का मतलब हुआ कि organ of government which looks into constitutionality and legality of the functions of executive and legislature. ये तो एक काम हुआ. दूसरा काम बताओ. दो काम मत करता है, दूसरा एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण काम है. It interprets the intent of the provisions of constitution. लिख लो. It interprets the intent. It interprets the intent of the provisions of constitution. Intent, मंतव्य, INTENT, intent of the provisions of constitution. देखिए कैसे इंटेंट चेंज होता है. There's a line, हिंदी में लिख रहा हूं. हाँ, अब बताओ मायने. तो रोक रहा है कि जाने दे रहा है? अब बताओ. That is requirement to interpret the intent of the constitution. Otherwise, the executives will interpret it as they wish to, as it fits them, not for the reason of the people. That is required to be standardized. नहीं तो सब आदमी अपने अपने तरीके से इंटरप्रेट करेगा और पैंडेमोनियम हो जाएगा पूरे संस्था में, पूरे व्यवस्था में. That is the important function that I मतलब मैंने आपको बताया. I referred you कि therein it is the responsibility of the constitution to interpret the intent, the meaning of the constitution, and that is final. So we'll read about the organs of union and state government, and therein we'll read, say, president, vice president, prime minister, council of ministers, attorney general, CAG, governor, CM, council of ministers, advocate general, जो कि center or state के executive, and then parliament, and then state legislature, then high court, supreme court and high court, and then subordinate courts. So organs of the union and state government, right? Thereafter, अच्छा इतना सारा बात सुन के कि ये भी पढ़ना है तो घबरा नहीं रहे ना, घबराएंगे तो मैं रोक दूंगा वहीं पे, बोले मैंने इसके आगे नहीं पढ़ेंगे. Look, no, this is not the condition. We are not in American condition. We are in Indian condition, wherein rule of law is there. Based upon the rule of law, the judiciary is there to interpret the intent of the constitution neutrally, what it considers good in the favor of the people. That is the reason we find that whenever provisions of the constitution is mum, then judiciary is there to peep into the preamble, because that is the objective. If you will go in the history, you will find that it was Jawaharlal Nehru who was there to propose objective motion on 13th December 1946. And that was there proposing the objectives for which the constitution had to be prepared. And the same objective motion with some of the accommodations got adopted in Indian constitution as preamble. So that conveys about the objective. Considering those objectives, trying to open up the minds of the constitution framers, the judiciary is there to interpret.
Yeah, but then there will be conflict of interest between judiciary and executive or...
But that cannot happen, because judiciary has not been given anything that it could do by itself. Judiciary is there only to interpret. If it wants to have some report, judiciary will not be able to do that. Judiciary will order it to the executive, and executive will do it and report it to judiciary. If there is a requirement of law, it is not judiciary to make law. It is the legislature to make law. Judiciary will give the requirement. Likewise, in 2010, when the environment of the country was deteriorating fast, and in one case, on the basis of Article 21, Supreme Court was there to give directive to the state that there is requirement of such an agency that could monitor the pollution conditions of Delhi and all over India. Based upon that directive, in 2011, there was National Green Tribunal Act, and then NGT is there, national level institution, which is monitoring the conditions. So it was not the judiciary to make it. ये तो बना है राष्ट्रपति के आदेश से, and by the legislation of the legislature, parliament. So judiciary has not been given. So conflict of interest condition is not there, and that is separation of power specifically assigned.
Sir, but in the case of National Judicial Commission, why they are not accepted there?
Because that is on the that is limiting the liberty of the judiciary.
So that is then...
Have you gone through the provisions of an NJAC?
Yes, sir.
One of the condition was that transfer and posting will be there in the hands of the executive.
But for that, total National Judicial Commission has been...
That was a mark on the liberty of, freedom of judiciary. And the executive was trying to control it. And so that is basic structure. Freedom of judiciary is basic structure. You cannot control the judiciary. So it was done. And that was valid. When यहाँ पे हम लोग पढ़ेंगे, when you read governance and therein Right to Information Act, RTI. And therein, with the change in 2019, what has been done is basically controlling the, even central government will be there to identify, to appoint the information commissioners in state. भाई साहब ये क्या है? The RTI condition is there for the reason of the liberty. And that is being controlled. That is not right. It is not right. So that has been done. And for that, explanations have been given. And that is agreed. कोई हल्ला नहीं हुआ उसके बाद. जब रिपील किया तो कोई हल्ला नहीं हुआ पूरे देश में. नहीं तो हल्ला नहीं होता. For the reason of that validity. Coming back to this. When we read judiciary, apart from the provisions, there are 2-3 important words. Judicial activism, judicial review. Review तो ठीक है, activism गड़बड़ करता है. उससे भी ज़्यादा गड़बड़ overreach करता है. So judicial review, judicial activism, judicial overreach, we'll discuss all those in course of reading judiciary. Thereafter, these are the 2 tiers. But India is having 3rd tier also. What is that? Local self-government. सिर्फ पंचायती राज बोलेंगे और म्युनिसिपैलिटी को क्या करेंगे? जी. Local self-government. And then PRI, Panchayati Raj and municipality. We are having these 3 levels. But the population is same, na? This is India. We are having states. And then we are having local self-government. A same condition is there for all the states. So as a matter of fact, for this population, we are having number 1, number 2, number 3 organs. Covering whole. If we take Panchayati Raj, then all the rural areas of whole country is covered. When we take state government, then 28 states and union territories, so state government is covering whole country. When we say central government, it is covering whole state. So by that way, we are having 3 organs for the same population. And then the possibility of overlapping, duplication, absence of work could be there. हम लोग दोनों दोस्त हैं, सिनेमा देखने गए, बोले पानी तो वो लाएगा ही. सर ने सोचा पानी तो सर लाएंगे ही. कोई नहीं लाया पानी. Why did it happen? We did not intimate each other. दोनों खाना ही ले आए. अच्छा उसका दूसरा कि खाना तो लाएंगे ही, पानी ले चलते हैं. खाना तो लाएगा ही, पानी ये चला गया, खाना नहीं गया, पानी पी पी के दिन गया. Why did it happen? Sir, only for the reason of misinformation, absence of coordination. Now, for a country, if such condition is there, so there is requirement to write down, identify area of work between center, state, and local self-government. Relationship between center state for the reason of executive functions, for the reason of legislative function, for the reason of administrative function, for the reason of finance. All those are there. So the another thing, for these conditions we find that there should be a dedicated chapter for the center state relation. That is. And we should also read that. We'll read center state relation. Center state relation will be there. Everything will be done. We are living in a democracy. तो चुनाव तो कराना पड़ेगा. And then lot of accommodations or say malpractices are happening in election mechanism. अभी तो सामने दिख रहा है सब. Not only election, we'll emphasize on election reforms. Election. High level of diversity is prevailing in India. Multi-level. Social, political, economic, cultural, geographical, linguistic. such divergent condition, integrity of the country is being protected. And lot of threats are there. Unfortunately, we are not having a very good neighborhood. So we have to keep always vigilant. And international relation happens to be one of the most important tool in this regard. But after having all those activities, internally we must be so sound. And this is one of the responsibility objective given to central government, says state from preamble, to protect unity and integrity of nation. पढ़ेंगे हम लोग? You might be knowing as well. Unity and integrity of nation. So that is the responsibility. And that is one of the reasons that even after adopting the federal form of government, even after adopting the parliamentary form of government, democratic mechanism of work, we have got our center tilted, our power division tilted towards center. Deliberately, center has been made stronger in comparison to states. And if it would not have been done, तो अभी तक खालिस्तान, तो बोडोलैंड, तो नागालैंड, तो तमिलनाडु, जाने क्या क्या, that would have happened. It is only 352, 356 जरूरत नहीं पड़ी है, भगवान न करे किसकी जरूरत पड़े. भाई साहब वो लगा तो देगा, फंसेंगे हम ही लोग. कोरोना में सब समझ में आ गया है. So considering all these things, there is essential requirement. Philosophically, this is required. And then we'll go to study about the provisions. That is emergency provisions. Achha, Constitution is so vast that it is not possible to cover it up in totality. But I'll try to give you minimum important details. For the reason of BPSC, in the part of, say, polity and governance, we find caste, religion and pressure groups also. So at the end, we'll look into that, and governance. है ना? तो caste, role of caste, religion and pressure group, and say governance. One of the question has appeared from e-governance also. So governance, e-governance. So basically when we refer governance, the reference is good governance. Governance is concept and output is good governance. Itni baat we'll read. Do we have time for today? Kitna? हाँ. So we have class till 8:30. I do not mean anything. Pressure group is there. Look, the question should be what, आपने पूछा, what do you mean? हाँ. नहीं, mean नहीं होना चाहिए. उसका होना चाहिए कि what is pressure group? What is the meaning of pressure group? Group of people who are there pressurizing the government to attain certain objective. Group of people of different caste, creed, profession, who are there pressurizing the government. They are not the part of government. They are pressurizing the government to find some facility from the government. That is pressure group. Kisan Sabha is interest group, pressure group. है ना? Likewise. पढ़ेंगे हम लोग. That is the syllabus of the next some days of discussion on polity. Let us start it. For the reason of that constitutional development, I have tried to give you some basic details. You are supposed to go through by yourself. In the history also you read about those things. है ना? So, for the reason of constitutional development part, you start things from 1600, Elizabeth, and then different charters, starting things from Regulating Act, and then in between, तो फिर Pitt's India Act, then Charter Act, then 13. So you come down till हाँ चलिए सीधा सीधा वहीं आ जाते हैं. बीच में एक पड़ाव में डालना चाहता था लेकिन सीधा वहीं आ जाते हैं. So it was I was willing to give you detail of 1858 because after Sipahi Bidroh a lot of things got changed. East India Company खत्म हो गया, कई चीजें हुई, है ना? So till 1947, that is Independence Act, right? And thereafter for the demand and framing, right? ये इतिहास है, आप इतिहास में पढ़ते हैं, देख लीजिए. जरूरत पड़ेगी तो मैं बता दूंगा, ऐसा नहीं, but these things are there that you could. मैंने कई लोगों से जब when I was trying to deliberate things, I found some minute details from the audience that gave me a sense that you have studied those. And then coming down to the key features of constitution. देखो क्या लिखा था. That is key feature. We could say philosophy also. And the first thing that I had written, sources to constitution perhaps. Sources to constitution. ठीक है, आपने पूरा लिखा है. Sources to constitution. That means those documents, those developments, those affected, that those influenced the development of constitution. And then you people are knowing about, okay, lot of things got adopted from UK, mainly parliamentary system. Rule of law. Nominal head of state. Mainly, a lot of things are there. Privilege and immunities and legislative procedure and single citizenship and cabinet executive. बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. These are important ones. Then from USA. पहले जुडिशरी बोलेंगे, फेडरल फीचर नहीं बोलेंगे. सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट क्या है? फेडरलिज्म. सोच कर देखो. The federal philosophy. Herein, now important thing is to understand that from America we have not taken up federal system, we have taken federal philosophy. We'll discuss federalism separately. Because if we compare Indian system from American system, we find we are not close. In America, the states happen to be stronger in comparison to center. In India, opposite conditions are there. But we have adopted the philosophy of federation. Now, that is one of the important thing that we need to care while writing. Okay, when you write for in the reference of USA, you should not write that we adopted federal system, because as system we are close to Canada. But the federal philosophy evolved in America. We have adopted the federal philosophy. So, federal philosophy is there. So, we should not write federal system. Right? Federal philosophy. अब जो आपकी बात आती है, लेकिन उसमें भी पहले आता है that is say apex judiciary. Although Indian judiciary is not similar to American judiciary, but it is close. Apex judiciary is there. And then say fundamental rights. Most importantly, post of vice president. India has adopted the post of vice president from America. Impeachment of president. Removal of judges, Supreme Court and High Court. बोलो, कुछ बोलना है? अच्छा. Due process of law. अमेरिका, ब्रिटेन से हम लोगों ने रूल ऑफ लॉ लिया, अमेरिका से हम लोगों ने ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ लिया. When we'll be there in Article 14, fundamental rights, we'll try to differentiate between the due process, procedure established, and rule of law, and all. Due process of law. हाँ, due, D-U-E. किताब को घर में पढ़ते हैं, है ना? अभी आपका ध्यान किताब को पढ़ने में जाएगा, सुनने में नहीं जाएगा. दोनों काम एक साथ नहीं होता बच्चा. किताब घर में पढ़ने के लिए, घर में खूब पढ़ो, फिर आओ, फिर बात करेंगे. यहां पे सुनो, जो लिखा जा रहा है उसको लिखो, आप फायदा होगा, है ना? अच्छा, किताब तो बाद में भी मिल जाएगा, हम थोड़ी मिलेंगे बाद में, क्लास के बाद. सुन लेते. कनाडा. फेडरल सिस्टम विद यूनिटरी फीचर. फेडरल सिस्टम तो लिया. In Canada we find that therein unitary feature is prominent, and that we have adopted. That is the reason I said you we are close to Canada for the reason of federal system, because we are also there having unitary features like Canada. So Canada, federal system with unitary feature. The important thing is residuary power is there with center. What is residuary power?
Whatever is left out of union, state and
Concurrent. Residuary powers to center. भारत में भी है. रेसिडरी पावर का मतलब क्या हुआ बच्चा? We are having, in schedule 7 we are having 3 lists, है ना? Union list, state list and concurrent list. If any such subject appears which has no reference in any of the 3 lists, that is residuary power. Residuary को हिंदी में बोलते हैं बचा खुचा. तो इन 3 में से लिखने के बाद जो बच खुच गया उसको हम अवशिष्ट शक्ति कहते हैं हिंदी में, या रेसिडरी पावर कहते हैं. एंड दैट इज टू सेंटर. अमेरिका में स्टेट को है, है ना? That is important. Advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court 143 इंडिया में जो है, that President has got the right that it can seek advice, legal advice from Supreme Court. That is a different matter. मान सकता है, माने नहीं माने उसका बात का बात है. That is there in Canada. So that right, that is one of the important feature adopted from Canada. कि advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court. Process of appointment of governor. America is also a federal system. Therein also governors are there. But in America the governors are elected. System नहीं, जुडिश मैंने लिखा नहीं ना, मैं यहां लिख रहा हूं. Advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court. So in Canada, federal system is there, governors are there, but governors are appointed, not elected. In India also we find governors are appointed. Ireland is there. कप में दीजिएगा, कप है, कप में दीजिए. From Ireland, BPSC, Electoral College of President. भारत में भी इलेक्टोरल कॉलेज बनता है. Words, language of preamble is from Australia, but the preamble is from America. Thank you. सब तो बता नहीं रहे, जितना बता रहे हैं सबका कुछ काम है आगे. जितना बताएं सबका कुछ ना कुछ हम आगे इस्तेमाल करेंगे. अभी पूछेंगे आपसे, जवाब आप नहीं दीजिएगा तो पहले बता दे रहे, फिर हम बताएंगे. बाकी और ऑस्ट्रेलिया, रूस, जापान, जर्मनी, फ्रांस, साउथ अफ्रीका सबसे है. For these conditions, one of the allegation is there upon Indian Constitution, that it is called to be hodgepodge constitution. खिचड़ी, hodgepodge मतलब mixture, और borrowed constitution. Imitated constitution भी बोलते. Do you agree to that? My question is that. I do not agree to you. And if you say yes, then you do not know constitution. Sorry to say. But what I am saying, I'll prove. You'll agree. Whenever it is said that Indian constitution is a imitated constitution, it is nothing else than colonial mindset. They could not be able to. कल तक तो पानी भरते थे मेरे सामने, आज आप वकील हो गया, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बना लिए. It was not accepted. It was not accepted by our colonial masters, the British constitutionalists. And so they named it as borrowed constitution. I'll prove it. तो इसीलिए सिर्फ इतना ही लिखा, आगे नहीं लिखा. आगे बताते. Whatsoever have been adopted from world constitution, those are their only philosophy. And all the philosophies have been customized as per the Indian requirement. All of them. Now, intellectual property cannot be individualistic. आपने एक बार कुछ बना लिया, कर लिया, तो उसका दूसरा कोई इस्तेमाल नहीं करेगा. सॉवरेंटी का ऐसा थोड़ी होता है. But all those things have been adopted and have been customized. Likewise, we have got parliamentary form of government. We accept that we have adopted it from Britain, but we do not accept that we have cut and pasted it. Reasons? कुछ कारण बता दो. प्रेसिडेंशियल है क्या हमारे यहाँ? प्रेसिडेंशियल फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट तो वो तो वहां भी है, क्राउन है.
But we have president who is elected. Crown is a monarchy. Our president is part of our government, parliament. And that is.
वहां भी है. हाँ हाँ, ब्रिटेन में तो है तो बाइकैमरल ना. हाउस ऑफ कॉमन्स एंड हाउस ऑफ लॉर्ड्स, राज्यसभा और लोकसभा, वैसे ही है. शैडो कैबिनेट, सूडो कैबिनेट. चलिए, द वेरी फर्स्ट थिंग, वी आर फेडरल एंड दे आर यूनिटरी. We have adopted the parliamentary system, but we are federation also, which is not there in in Britain.
But in that part, that America will be saying that yes, you.
तो अमेरिका के पास जाएंगे तब ना, अभी तो ब्रिटेन का बात कर रहे हैं. वहां पे दूसरी बात बताएंगे. In the parliamentary form of government of Britain, the head of the state, chief executive, is nominal head. Quite nominal. कहा जाता है कि if a resolution passed by parliament to hang the crown cannot deny to sign. He'll have to. Sorry. Crown cannot deny. Is it the condition in India? No. Our president is there to use veto power. Absolute veto is there. And basic meaning of absolute veto is to deny. आपने पूछा सिनेमा जाए, मैंने कुछ नहीं बोला, तो ये पॉकेट वीटो हो गया. बस सिनेमा जाए, पढ़ना लिखना कुछ नहीं, सिनेमा चलो. दिस इज डिनायल. दिस इज एब्सोल्यूट वीटो. एंड नेक्स्ट टाइम यू कैन नॉट आस्क मी कि सिनेमा जाए. मतलब सेम प्रपोजल कैन नॉट बी प्रोसीडेड इन द हाउस. इफ इट इज डिनाइड, दैट इज एब्सोल्यूट वीटो. प्रेसिडेंट हैज गॉट द राइट. President is elected one. Therein it is hereditary. काहे का कट एंड पेस्ट नहीं. अब यही तो ए भाई, are you getting my point? Now these are the questions of interview. You are supposed to answer only the एक दो पॉइंट बोलना है. आप एक दो पॉइंट बोलेंगे, बाकी बात समझ में आ जाके बच्चा पढ़ा है, समझ में आती है बात. So that is one of the things that proves that Constitution of India has been customized. So we have adopted the philosophy. So with the adoption of parliamentary form, we have adopted and customized the federal system also, because in federal system, republican form of government also, because in republican system, the head of the state is elected. Always, which is not the condition in British system, but we are having. We have got federal government, that is double layer of government is there. India is having 3 tier of government, whereas in Britain there is unitary government. Means there is only one parliament, and the British parliament is there to make law, make budget for whole Great Britain. No other institution of making law is there. But in India we are having 28 plus 2 or पौंडीचेरी एंड दिल्ली तो 30 और एक पार्लियामेंट तो 31. We are having 31 legislative bodies, and within their scope of jurisdiction they are competent to make law. कट पेस्ट कौन बोलेगा? जो बोलता है उसको समझदारी ही नहीं है. मतलब यही ना हुआ सर. अब इधर आ जाते हैं, फेडरल फिलॉसफी. Our system is totally different. We are having center having concentration of power in comparison to states. For the reason of federation, we are having division of power. Center list, state list, concurrent lists are there. And center list has got larger number of subjects in comparison to states, which is not there in America. We are having appointed governor, wherein therein they are having elected governor. Most importantly, post of president, vice president. In India, in case of vacancy in the post of president, it is the vice president who takes over. In America also, in case of absence in the vacancy in the post of president, the vice president takes over. But in India, within 6 months, new election for new president is must. And the election is there for 5 years. In America, the vice president functions as president to complete the term of 4 years. There is no fresh election. और क्या अंतर चाहिए?
Sir, what if the vice president dies in America?
तो अमेरिकन बताएगा. That is such a condition wherein constitution is mum. It has not assigned anything. If it happens, the system will think. Lot of conditions, things are there in Indian constitution also, wherein things are silent. If things happen, then it will be there. So accordingly it will be interpreted. So for the reason of USA also, to call Indian constitution as imitated one is a crime. Is a show off of colonial mindset. Not being able to that much of intellectual property to appreciate the brilliance of the constitution. Because since 70 years, more than 70 years, 1950 से हो गए तो 72 साल हो गए, 71 साल तो हो ही गए. So more than 70 years have happened and system is running. That is the mark of success of a constitution. And for such a large country, ब्रिटेन में तो बिहार कितना जगह है, आदमी है, और बिहार छोटे राज्यों में, बड़े राज्यों में नहीं है. So this is a success of a constitution to serve such a large population for large years. We have not cut pasted because India is having supremacy of constitution. America is having supremacy of judiciary. Quite differences there. If there is supremacy of constitution, that establishes rule of law. Everything will prevail on the basis of the provisions of the constitution. That is rule of law. Rule of law का मतलब आगे पढ़ेंगे तो विस्तार में बताएंगे. The preamble from US. जी. ऐसा कोई प्रश्न है जिसका उत्तर दिया जाए. मतलब they are supporting the discussion. Questions are not asked. Sir, please explain in bilingual. ये तो बोल तो रहा हूँ, हिंदी में तो बोल रहा हूँ. अच्छा, somebody is saying, sir, speak in bilingual, and if I write this is not bilingual. So by all these means, we find that calling Indian constitution, imitated one is a sin. अब देखिए, जैसे जैसे मैं ये प्रश्न बोल रहा हूं ना, all these questions happen to be homework for you. Every time I'll not ask you, you are not student of class 4 कि डायरी में लिखो, पेरेंट्स से साइन करवा के लाना, आंसर नहीं लिखे तो फिर साइन करवा के लाना. Whenever the reference is there, there could be a question, automatically it becomes your homework. Because objective of saying that there could be a question is referring you to write an answer. Whatsoever we are referring, we are discussing those first. I am trying to write the examples. अच्छा, एक चीज मैं इंतजार कर रहा था कि बोलूंगा बाद में. When I was referring for the features of parliamentary system specific for India, none of you noted those. कल पूछूंगा तो याद नहीं रहेगा, शायद कल याद रह जाए, 10 दिन के बाद याद नहीं रहेगा. लिखना तो पड़ेगा ना, कैसे होगा? ठीक ना? अच्छा, मैं ये इसको मैं डांट रहा हूं, थोड़ा वर्ड सॉफ्ट है. है ना? अच्छा, कुछ असर नहीं हुआ. लिखो भाई. Look, we'll be discussing a lot of things. You would not be able to remind those unless you note something. तो थोड़े थोड़े पॉइंट्स तो लिख लो. पार्लियामेंट्री सिस्टम बोला तो 1 2 3 4 कुछ पॉइंट्स लिख लिया, घर जाके पढ़े तो याद आया, उसको फिर बड़ा कर लिया, फिर से लिख लिया, और नहीं तो फिर कल पूछा. ये सिस्टम चलेगा. तो यू आर सपोज टू नोट दोस. क्वेश्चन नोट कीजिए. कॉलिंग इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अ बोरोड वन. कॉलिंग इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अ बोरोड वन. is nothing else than just a colonial mindset. Nothing else than a colonial mindset. Give reasons for your answer. अब इसका उत्तर यही तो 2 3 चीजें लिखेंगे. है ना? वो कनाडा के बारे में जो इतनी बात लिखनी है, आंसर तैयार हो गया. अच्छा, ऐसा नहीं कि परीक्षा में 10 पॉइंट जाने तो 10 के 10 ही लिखे. जो मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट डिपेंड करता है कि व्हाट इज द लेंथ ऑफ योर आंसर, हाउ मच नंबर हैज बीन गिवन टू. है ना? Accordingly, your answer will increase. So, the 4-5 point, if you analyze, so that will prepare your answer. So, you have written the points, you have to elaborate it. Right, sir?
The Crown Prince of UK, Crown of UK,
Uh-huh.
member of parliament or
No. एकदम नहीं. इस पर कुछ बातें आगे भी जब when we'll be discussing parliamentary system, no, then we'll discuss those. So that is source to constitution. Now you have to interpret things. Whatsoever answer you will write today, at the end of the discussion of polity, you'll write better answer. The reason is a lot of things we'll discuss and you'll come to know about many other things. Those will support your आंसर दैट वी हैव नॉट डिस्कस्ड. तो मैंने तो 3-4 बातें बता दी ताकि आपका उत्तर तैयार हो जाए. लेकिन जब पूरा संविधान पढ़ते हैं तो डिफरेंट एरियाज, डिफरेंट डायमेंशंस अपीयर एंड यू आर सपोज टू नोट दोज फॉर योर आंसर. ये क्वेश्चन मैं इसलिए बताता हूं कि व्हेन अदर थिंग्स विल बी डिस्कस्ड, एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम यू शुड रिफ्लेक्ट दिस क्वेश्चन. दिस पॉइंट ऑल्सो कैन बी एडेड ओवर देयर. And then your responsibility happens when you go back to your house, you pick up the point from there and write it on the page so that you could be able to integrate those while writing answer. क्योंकि इसके बारे में सारी बात बता लेंगे तो पूरा फिर 10 क्लास हो जाएगा, तो वो आंसर तैयार होगा नहीं. आई सपोज आई एम क्लियर. बात आपको समझ में आ रही है जी? दूसरा क्या बताया था? नहीं, अरे सोर्सेस टू द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन तो खत्म हो गया ना. तो उसका टॉपिक बताओ, मैंने लिखवाया क्यों है? मुझे तो याद है, मैं आपको कैसे याद कराऊंगा? बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर, यस। मुझे याद है, मैं बार बार बोलता रहूंगा, मुझे तो याद है। आपको कैसे याद होगा? तो मैं खुजवाऊंगा ना कॉपी। कॉपी खोजेंगे तो 4 पन्ना उल्टेगा, फिर उस पर मिलेगा, फिर 2 बार पढ़ेंगे, कुछ तो अटकेगा। सर हम लोग कितना देर और क्लास कर सकते हैं सर? 15 मिनट सर। Another one, that is basic structure. It has not been referred anywhere in the constitution. इधर से लिखो, दूसरे पन्ने पे लिखो। अच्छा इधर लिखना, दूसरे पन्ने पे लिखो। हाँ, look, when you ended the topic here, have some place. Start it from here. It is better if you start it from here, because later on if you'll read something, where will you write? This basic structure concept has not been written anywhere in the constitution. It has come up. It has evolved through the process of functioning of court, Supreme Court. Herein we find that the judiciary performs its constitutional responsibilities. And in course of that, it imposes some limitations, restrictions, to stop the arbitrariness of the other organs of government. If arbitrariness prevails, then the constitutionality is diluted. And it is the duty of the judiciary to restrict those, so that constitutionality of the system could be maintained. संवैधानिक तरीके से काम हो, कोई भी गैर कानूनी परिस्थिति नहीं उत्पन्न हो. Now, what is the objective to ensure constitutionality? Because constitution is there dedicated to the welfare of the people. So if everything happens by the means of constitution, so automatically good of people, that is the objective of state, will be attained. So everywhere it is emphasized that things must prevail in accordance with the constitution, with the constitutionality. Right, sir? Parliament has got the right to amend constitution. And if that right is misused, so the total face of the constitution may be changed. That will not be good. And then something evolved in the mind of Supreme Court while interpreting the constitution. It means that something is there as a structure that you cannot divulge. If this room is there and has got 4 pillars on the corners, you cannot demolish one pillar. If you demolish, then whole building will demolish. That means that that pillar, those are 4 in number, happen to be basic thing. कितना भी बढ़िया करना है, खराब करना है, दिक्कत है, कुछ भी, आप उस पिलर को नहीं हटा सकते. In this perspective, court interpreted the matter and evolved with the concept of basic structure. As a matter of fact, this concept of basic structure came up in Pakistan while interpreting the constitution in 60s. Pakistani Supreme Court referred some basic structure of the constitution that should not be compromised. तो ये विचार कि बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर जैसी चीज संविधान में होती है, हिंदी में बोलते हैं आधारभूत संरचना, ये विचार पाकिस्तान में उपलब्ध हुआ, शुरू हुआ. In Indian perspective, we find in 1965 there was a famous case, you might be knowing, Sajjan Singh, related to fundamental rights, amendability of fundamental right, में फिर इसकी चर्चा होगी. In the bench of Sajjan Singh case, there was one justice named Justice Mudholkar. This Mudholkar Sahab was the person to say during the hearing of Sajjan Singh case, some basic things are there in the constitution, fundamental features are there in the constitution that can never be changed. But as Mr. Mudholkar, Justice Mudholkar, was in minority, संख्या इनकी कम थी, so his idea did not crop up, was not given attention. But in 1965, this had been referred first time in India. And then in 1973, yes, Keshwanand Bharati case. First time the Supreme Court said. Now, in what perspective did it say? So we'll go into the details when we'll be reading amendability of fundamental right. But to give you reference, in 1951, first time in Champakam Durai Rajan case, Supreme Court said, इसमें लिखने की जरूरत नहीं, मैं लिखवा दूंगा अभी. सुन लो, दो लाइन तो मैं लिखवा ही दूंगा. अच्छा, what I consider, if you understand things now, you'll be able to write that. If you write and you do not understand, so that will be just black letters. समझते हैं? मैं लिखा दूंगा, सारी चीज किताब में है ना, मैं बता दूंगा मैं कहां से पढ़ता हूं, ये भी कोई समस्या. हाँ, किताब तो नहीं है, इसमें क्या है, किताब तो 3-4 किताबें हैं, सब पढ़ते हैं, मैं भी पढ़ता हूं, आप भी पढ़िए, है ना. लेकिन if you listen me, you'll understand those. तो किताब पढ़ने में मजा आने लगेगा. अभी किताब पढ़ते तो पापा बोले हैं तो पढ़ लेते हैं, क्या करें, उपाय नहीं है, तो नहीं तो फिर खाना नहीं मिलेगा तो पढ़ लेते हैं. तो खाना लिटरली नॉट ईटिंग, खाना मतलब एक तारीख को आने वाला एसएमएस भी है, वो सब है इसमें, वो खाना उसी से आता. इफ यू एंजॉय रीडिंग, किताब पढ़े और पढ़ने का मन करने लगे, दैट इज अंडरस्टैंडिंग. वो तब होता है जब आप सुनते समझते हैं. मैं भूल गया ना क्या बोल रहा था. वेरी गुड, ये मुझे अच्छा लगा कि मैं भूल गया लेकिन आपको याद रहा कि पढ़ क्या रहे थे. दैट इज अटेंटिवनेस. वेरी गुड सर. सो इन केशवानंद भारती केस, व्हेन इट वाज देयर, तो हाँ, चंपकम केस वाज देयर. And the basic thing that came out of the Champakam case was that Parliament can amend fundamental rights by means of constitutional amendment. And this continued in Champakam Durai Rajan, then Sankari Prasad and Sajjan Singh. So yahan tak to chala. In 67 there was change. And there was kya naam hai, Golaknath case, wherein Supreme Court said कि no, nobody, not even Parliament has any right to amend any part of fundamental rights. और साफ बोल दिया, मूल अधिकार में कोई परिवर्तन नहीं कर सकता है, संसद भी नहीं. पंगा हो गया. You remember the time, it was 67. Srimati Gandhi had been there. तो इतना जल्दी हार नहीं मानती थी. And see, brought a amendment, 24th Amendment Act. And therein, see, made a provision that Parliament has all the rights to amend Constitution. It did not say fundamental right. It only asserted Parliament is there, it has got the right to amend Constitution. तो फंडामेंटल राइट तो अपने आप आ गया ना भाई. That 24 got challenged, and that is Keswanand Bharti case. सुप्रीम कोर्ट एग्रीड, बोला भाई आप ठीक बोल रहे हैं, आपको पूरा अधिकार है संविधान में परिवर्तन करने का. एंड इट ऑल्सो स्पेसिफिकली सेड, एंड इन फंडामेंटल राइट्स ऑल्सो व्हाट इट सेड, कि यू आर राइट, वैलिडिटी ऑफ 24th अमेंडमेंट इज राइट, एंड पार्लियामेंट हैज ऑल द राइट्स टू अमेंड एनी पार्ट ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इंक्लूडिंग फंडामेंटल राइट. उसने बोला कि इंक्लूडिंग फंडामेंटल राइट द पार्लियामेंट हैज गॉट ऑल द राइट्स टू अमेंड. But in course of amending constitution, the parliament cannot dilute the basic structure. That is concept of basic structure. So in Keswan Bharti case, this basic structure doctrine got established, and court said, Supreme Court said, कि let the functions of legislature be performed continuously. संसद को काम करते रहना चाहिए, करते रहिए. Time to time as required, the Supreme Court will interpret the legislations. And in course of that, if it finds some basic structure involved being diluted through the amendment or any legislation, Supreme Court will interpret it and will reserve the right to repeal. That means the list of basic structure is not ended, finished. It is open-ended. Function of legislature to make law is continued. Whenever it will be required and conditions will be there, Supreme Court will interpret and repeal. That is concept of basic structure, and in nutshell, no basic structure can be diluted by anybody, even parliament. What is that? What are those part of constitution? Those happen to be part of basic structure, will be interpreted by Supreme Court, time to time. Clear? लिखेंगे, लिख लीजिए. मुझे पता है आप लोग, अच्छा मैंने एक चीज देखा ना कि मैं बोल रहा हूं तो कोई लिख रहा नहीं है. एक होता है कि सुन रहे हैं तो साथ में नोट भी कर रहे हैं, कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट बात आई तो नोट किया. मैंने देख लिया कि कोई नोट कर नहीं रहा, तो मैंने चीजों को बदल दिया उतनी देर में कि भाई अच्छा ठीक है सुन ही लो, फिर लिख भी ले. लिख लीजिए थोड़े में इसको. कॉन्सेप्ट बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर कि इट इज अ व्यू दैट इवॉल्व्ड. इट इज अ, अच्छा व्हाइल यू आर नोटिंग ना, बी लिटिल फास्ट, लिटिल फास्ट थोड़ा. अच्छा उसमें से कुछ मान लिया छूट जाए एक दो शब्द, तो हमसे पूछने के बजाय क्लास के बाद बगल वाले से, है ना, क्योंकि फिर बहुत बार रिपीटेशन होगा. बी लिटिल फास्ट, प्लीज कंटिन्यू. इट इज अ व्यू दैट इवॉल्व्ड on the basis of analysis of constitutionality or constitutional provision. On the basis of क्या लिखा? On the basis of analysis, on the basis of analysis of constitutional provisions by Supreme Court. By Supreme Court. Herein judiciary performs its constitutional responsibilities. Performs its constitutional responsibilities and imposes limits on the arbitrariness of executive and legislature, so that any majority party in government any majority party in government could not misuse amending power of parliament arbitrarily. आर्बिट्ररीली मतलब मनमाने तरीके से. एक क्वेश्चन आया है, हाउ कैन वी गेट आवर आंसर इवेल्युएटेड? सो यू नीड टू सेंड इट टू सर and then it will reach me. Sir, somebody is asking. You send it to sir. Sir will refer it to me. I'll see that and give you comments. With a change of paragraph. The concept of basic structure was first time used in Pakistan. Concept of basic structure was first time used in Pakistan, full stop, in 1960s. It was used by Pakistani in the 1960s, 60 के दशक में. It was used by Pakistani Supreme Court referring some basic structure of constitution that should be essentially protected. ठीक है, चेंज ऑफ पैराग्राफ. कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर, चेंज ऑफ पैराग्राफ से लिखिए. कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर वाज फर्स्ट टाइम यूज्ड बाय जस्टिस मुधोलकर. यूज्ड, रेफर्ड भी कर सकते हैं आप, एक ही बात है. रेफर्ड भी लिख सकते हैं. फर्स्ट टाइम रेफर्ड बाय जस्टिस मुधोलकर इन 1965 इन सज्जन सिंह केस. जस्टिस मुधोलकर इन 1965 इन सज्जन सिंह केस. He had said that some of the fundamental features of constitution cannot be changed. But due to minority in opinion, this idea was not given attention. At that time. चेंज ऑफ पैराग्राफ से फिर, और नेक्स्ट पॉइंट पैराग्राफ से चेंज जो भी लिखिए. Later on in 1973, in case 1 and case, this basic structure doctrine was proposed by Supreme Court. The objective is to restrict any such move by government by amending the constitution. By amending the constitution, comma, amending the constitution, comma, which is not according to the visions, which is not according to the vision or aspirations, according to the vision or aspirations of members of Constituent Assembly, which is not according to the vision or aspirations of the members of Constituent Assembly. अच्छा, इस अंदर में जो एक बात मैं मिस कर गया बताना कि बेसिकली दिस वाज अपोज्ड बाय पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज. मतलब बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर क्या होता है, लिख लीजिए इसी बात को विद अ चेंज ऑफ पैराग्राफ कि इनिशियली द पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैड अपोज्ड, initially the political parties had opposed this concept of basic structure. Initially the political parties had opposed this concept of basic structure as they considered it to be against, as they considered it to be against the concept of democracy, against the concept of democracy. Because under this concept, judiciary finds power to revert the decision of majority. क्या मतलब है इसका कि anything law that is passed by the parliament, that is basically a decision of majority. For the reason of basic structure, judiciary, which is not part of parliament, neither has been elected, and we are living in a democracy, but it reserves the right to repeal that. So basically it is changing the notions of decisions of majority, and so they interpreted it to be against democracy. Right? The change of paragraph. Political parties called it undemocratic. ज्यादा हो गया क्या? तो लिखिए political parties called it undemocratic. They believed it, full stop के बाद, they believed it undemocratic, called it undemocratic, full stop. They believed that it usurps, छीन लेता है, the rights of people, and people's representative, but gradually acceptance increased, especially after 1998. Acceptance increased, especially after 1998 NDA government. 1998 NDA government led by BJP. NDA government, right? चेंज ऑफ पैराग्राफ से लिखिए under the concept of basic structure, the parliament could not use, under the concept of basic structure, the parliament could not use its amending powers, could not use its amending powers under Article 368. Under Article 368. To damage, emasculate, 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 comma, destroy, these are the legal words, destroy, comma, abrogate, change, abrogate, comma, change, or alter, abrogate, comma, change, comma, change or alter the basic structure. ठीक ना? चलिए अब टास्क देते हैं आप लोग को. कल मैं आप लोगों से पूछूंगा कि कौन कौन चीजें हैं जो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर में आइडेंटिफाई सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने की है. कुछ आप भी काम करिए, घर जाके खोजिए कि lot of things those have been interpreted by the court gradual in course of time as basic structure. What are those? अच्छा सर मैं पढ़ूंगा आप नहीं पढ़ेंगे ये नहीं चलेगा, आपको ही पढ़ना होगा, है ना? So that is homework with the question जो मैंने एक क्वेश्चन दिया है, राइट सर? हम लोग यहीं पे रुकते हैं आज.